Think about those moments you've held back.
Hmm.
Maybe it's been that hesitation before speaking up in a meeting, or like wanting to dress differently but then thinking twice.
Yeah, yeah. Or just feeling you have to tone down who you are.
Exactly. Those invisible pressures, the fear of what other people might think. It can really weigh you down. It's surprising how heavy it feels.
It really can. It's like you're living with this constant uh, internal critic, always guessing what others might judge.
Right. But what if you could actually, turn the volume down on that critic?
Well, that's the goal, isn't it?
That's exactly what we're digging into today. We're exploring how to dial back that worry about what others think and start showing up more authentically.
Yeah. And look, this isn't about being rude or ignoring people.
No, not at all.
It's about getting that freedom, you know, freedom to speak, to learn, to grow.
And even to make mistakes without that constant fear hanging over you.
Precisely. It's about unlocking a more, well, genuinely confident you.
Okay. And our insights for this deep dive, they come from a really interesting YouTube video.
hmm It's called English Podcast. For learning English, stop caring what people think. English Leap Podcast. It's from the Speak English with Class channel.
Featuring Aaron and Evan. We found their discussion really insightful.
Yeah, they had some great points.
So our mission here is to pull out those key takeaways, the practical stuff that can help you, listening right now, break free from that fear of judgment and, build up that real confidence.
Okay, sounds good. Where should we start?
Well, let's start at the beginning. Where does this fear actually come from? How does it get such a hold on us?
Right. Well, what's fascinating, and what Aaron and Evan pointed out, is how often this fear of judgment starts really early in life.
Like childhood stuff.
Yeah, exactly. They use the example of school. Think about it. You raise your hand, you get an answer wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe someone laughs, or you just feel suddenly really exposed, maybe even a bit ridiculed.
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds of early experiences, those little shame triggers, they can actually set up a lifelong pattern. You start censoring yourself, even when you're not in that classroom anymore.
I can totally picture that feeling of just wanting the ground to swallow you up. And it's true, those feelings stick with you. They become almost automatic, don't they?
They really do. It's like we internalize this voice that's always expecting criticism, whether it's actually coming or not.
It's like carrying around what they called an invisible crowd.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. An invisible crowd, always whispering negative stuff, telling you what not to do or say.
And the thing is, often that crowd only exists in our own heads.
Precisely. But we give it so much power.
Yeah, we give those imagined voices way more weight than maybe our own intuition sometimes. It makes us quiet when we actually have something to say.
Creates anxiety when maybe we should just be, present in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Now, they had a really helpful way of framing this, especially, I thought, for anyone learning English.
Oh, yeah, the typo analogy. That was good.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so the basic idea is this. Making small mistakes when you speak English is kind of like having a typo in a text message.
Okay.
Most people, honestly, they don't care nearly as much as you think they do. A little typo doesn't usually stop you from understanding the message, right?
Right, totally. You get a
Yeah.
text with a spelling mistake, you just read past it, you get the meaning, you don't fixate on the error.
Exactly. And their point is, most people approach spoken language the same way, especially if they know you're learning. They're listening for your meaning, not hunting for tiny errors.
We just blow our own mistakes way out of proportion in our heads.
You really do.
Mhm.
That fear of a little slip-up can be paralyzing, but honestly, most people are just trying to understand what you're saying. Don't let it stop you from speaking.
That's such a good reminder. And that connects to another idea they brought up, which I found really liberating.
Ah, the self-absorption insight.
Yes. Tell us more. That one felt like a major perspective shift.
Okay, so basically, most people are primarily wrapped up in their own lives, their own thoughts, their own worries, their own to-do lists.
Right. They're not spending all their energy analyzing every little thing we do or say.
Not nearly as much as we imagine. It's like everyone's got their own spotlight,
Yeah, I loved that analogy.
and they're busy adjusting their own light, focusing on their own performance. They're not constantly shining it on everyone else, watching intently.
So we think we're on stage, but really we're often just like a background character in their movie.
That's a perfect way to think about it. A background passerby in most people's stories. And when you really let that sink in,
It takes the pressure off a lot.
a huge amount, suddenly those little mistakes or moments where you stumble over a word, they don't feel quite so massive.
It frees you up maybe to experiment a bit more, especially with language.
Exactly. When you're not constantly feeling like you're under this microscope of judgment, you can actually relax a bit and just engage.
Okay, but let's be real for a second. Sometimes people do say negative things.
True. That happens.
They used an example, someone being told, oh, your English is a bit weird. How do you handle moments like that? Because they do happen.
Yeah, that's a really important point. How do you deal with actual criticism?
Yeah.
The key insight they shared is about reframing it, shifting your perspective.
Okay. How?
Often, what someone says, especially a negative comment like that, it's actually more about them than it is about you.
Like it reflects their own stuff.
Exactly. It could be a projection of their own insecurities, their own limitations, maybe even their own biases.
They made the point that someone mocking an accent, for instance, might actually be doing that because they lack the courage to even try learning another language themselves.
Precisely. Seeing it that way totally changes the dynamic, doesn't it? It takes the sting out of it.
It really does. It lets you stop taking it so personally. They talked about owning your voice.
Yes. And for language learners, that accent, it's not a flaw. It's proof you're brave. It shows you're putting in the effort.
It's like a badge of honor, almost. Every word you manage to say is a win.
Absolutely. I love that reframing too. And this ties into another big idea. When you stop trying so hard to impress everyone else, you actually start growing more yourself.
Exactly. You unlock your own potential. All that energy you were spending on performance anxiety, you can redirect it into actually learning and understanding.
They shared a personal story, didn't they, about being in a workshop.
Oh, yeah, that was relatable.
Feeling totally lost, like everyone else got it, but afraid to ask a question because, didn't want to look stupid.
We've all been there.
But then someone else finally asked the exact question they were thinking. And it turned out like half the room was just as confused.
That's such a powerful illustration. You're often not the only one feeling uncertain.
Definitely not. And it busts that myth, right? That confidence means you already know everything.
Totally. The truth is, real confidence often comes from being okay with not knowing, being comfortable with the discomfort, and having the guts to ask. Growth comes from curiosity, not pretending you have all the answers.
You got it. And that's so crucial for language learners. They really emphasize this. Ask questions.
Even the basic ones.
Even the ones you think might sound silly. Don't let that fear hold you back. Curiosity, they said, is like a real superpower.
I like that. A superpower for learning.
It absolutely is. Because what often trips people up is this idea, this trap.
The perfection trap.
This feeling that you have to be perfect before you can even start or before you can ask for help.
They use that great analogy about learning to swim.
Right. You don't learn by just reading the book about swimming.
You got to jump in the water.
You have to get in, splash around, maybe swallow a bit of water.
Definitely swallow some water.
You gradually figure it out. You get better through the process, not by waiting for perfection.
Perfectionism is paralyzing, isn't it? You just wait and wait, never feeling ready.
Meanwhile, real progress is usually messy. It involves making those mistakes.
Yeah.
They even said their own grammar got better after they just started talking more, errors and all.
That's so encouraging. It flips the usual advice on its head. Don't wait to be flawless, just start doing.
Yeah. Their advice was basically aim for being fearless, aim for momentum, not for being perfect right out of the gate.
Even if it's just small steps like talking to a friend or joining a little online group.
Exactly. Just start. And that actually leads nicely into the idea of what confidence really is.
Right. It's not something you're just born with, is it?
No, not at all. They described it as a practice, something you build, like strengthening a muscle.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
They observed that people who seem really confident, they weren't necessarily born different. They just, they showed up more often.
Put in the time. Consistent effort.
Consistent practice, yeah. Taking those small, maybe slightly scary steps, but doing it regularly.
Like saying hello to someone new.
Or posting a comment online or sharing an opinion in a low-stakes situation. Each little action builds that confidence muscle bit by bit.
Okay, and the last big idea they talked about was this really powerful mental shift.
Ah, yes. Moving from fear.
To curiosity.
Exactly. Instead of constantly thinking, oh no, what if I mess up?
You start asking, what could I learn here? What could I discover?
It completely changes how you see interactions, doesn't it? Every conversation becomes a chance to learn, not just a test you might fail.
Mistakes aren't dramas anymore. They're just data, information.
useful feedback. They even suggested a little practical exercise
Oh, yeah.
after you have a conversation in English. Instead of beating yourself up about what went wrong,
Which is so easy to do.
ask yourself different questions. Like, what surprised me in that chat?
Mm.
Or what actually went well?
Oh, I love that. Focus on the positive, or at least the neutral, the learning part.
Yeah. It shifts your focus away from perceived flaws and onto actual growth and experience. Less self-criticism, more self-awareness.
It's a fundamental shift, really. Focusing on the journey, the learning, not just the imaginary judgment.
Exactly. From how am I being perceived to what can I gain from this?
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. The main message here, the core takeaway.
It really boils down to showing up,
Right.
speaking up, being your authentic self.
Without letting that fear of what other people might think hold you back.
Yeah. And remembering that those fears, they often come from old experiences or just imagined criticism.
And that most people are, frankly, too busy with their own lives to be scrutinizing your every move.
That's the liberating truth, isn't it?
It really is. And look, just by listening to this, by exploring this topic with us, you're already taking a step. We really commend you for that effort.
Absolutely. It shows you're invested in your own growth.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with.
Yeah, let's do that. For our final thought today, we really encourage you, think about one small thing, just one tiny action you could take, maybe even today.
Something to embrace that little bit of discomfort.
Exactly. The discomfort of being seen, being heard, even if it's imperfectly,
Mm.
especially on your learning journey or just in expressing yourself.
So the question for you is, what's one small step you can take to quiet that inner critic just a little?
And step more confidently into being, well, you.